Take two because someone said, oh, you don't have to move. Nobody will make noise. So here we are. When people discuss anything involving guns, they really get very specifically weasel wordish. But you can easily look this up. And no matter how much work a person does by saying total number of deaths per 100,000 versus total number of deaths using whatever number's bigger, or more accurately, most cases, whatever number is more realistic. So I'm going to do an apples-to-apples comparison here. The average homicide rate per 100,000 inhabitants, not the total number, just per 100,000. Because you have to pick a large number like that, because the United States, like many countries, homicides are very unusual. The global rate for homicide per 100,000 people is around 6, a little bit more than 6 people out of 100,000 are murdered each year. Period, full stop. Homicide. And it's homicide out of 100,000, 4.9, almost 5 in the United States. It's lower. But that's homicide. Okay. Now, for the children, and 11,000 per year or whatever, we must talk about the gun debate. But let's not be very specific. Now, obviously, if the number per 100,000 in the United States is lower than the average at 6 per 100,000, any number saying over 6 can't be accurate because it's a fucking lie, because that's the homicide rate, not the shooting rate. They can't all be shootings, or there can't be people dying from murder more than the murder rate with a gun. So what is the actual rate? Firearm injuries, non-fatal, 23 out of 100,000, which means somebody did a dumb thing and didn't learn how to handle a gun correctly. That's really true. The other small portion of that is also guns that are defective. If a gun is found defective, people sometimes just try to resell it, but most of the time they either get it repaired or do the responsible thing, find out what's wrong with the gun, and ask the gun maker, ask the gunsmith, take the part that's broken and cut it in half in front of me so nobody uses it again. When I had to deal with computers with intermittent problems, the only thing worse than a broken part that's dead is one that intermittently dies on you. If the mouse is dead, fine. But if the mouse is intermittent, it'll drive someone else insane. Cut the damn thing in half. I used to go out with a baseball bat and smash things so that they wouldn't torture someone else to death. An intermittent network card is the biggest bane in the... I'm not going to have a fucking heart attack over network cards. I cut them in half. Why did you do that? So you can't plug the fucking thing back in. If a gun has a defective firing pin or other thing that could be obviously much worse, get rid of it. Deaths due to injury by firearms, 10 out of 100,000, maybe 11. Suicides. Nobody brings up suicides with gun shootings. You notice we haven't gotten below 6 yet. 6.6 out of 100,000 inhabitants die per year due to suicide. A majority of them, not all of them, but a majority are with pistols, right? How many homicides? 3.5 out of 100,000. Half the global average homicide rate could be attributed to guns, right? Well, 90% of that was handguns. The other 10% split pretty evenly with shotgun and rifles. What's strictly below it? 1 out of 100,000 inhabitants are knifed to death, stabbing. And then a tenth of that, 0.16, 0.10, are actual blunt instruments. Now, why do people say blunt instruments account for more deaths than shootings? They're talking about the rest of them, shotguns and rifles. Pistols are used most of the time if you're going to use a gun. And you're more likely to get beaten to death or knifed to death than to be shot with a shotgun or a rifle, which are the only things that are ever listed under assault weapons bans. It's always a rifle, specifically, or a shotgun. They don't list handguns under assault weapon bans. They just don't. Because if you have a bog standard pistol, it's a much more effective murder weapon, and it's used in homicides 10 times as often. We had handgun bans because that actually kind of made sense at one time. Specifically, they banned, however, cheap guns because they didn't want poor people to get them, because the problem is people are poor and go off and commit a crime and carry a gun so that someone might not shoot them, because the rules were, if somebody's taking your property, you have a right to kill them, not shoot them. That was really how the rules were made. When people changed the rules to you must not murder someone for stealing a pack of cigarettes, they stopped carrying handguns as often because they weren't being shot at. They used them as intimidation items, and over half the time, because there was a law that said if the gun is unloaded, you can't prosecute them for armed robbery because it's considered not armed. Then they changed the rule to say if you load it or unload it at the same period of time, in jail. So what did the criminals do? They loaded the guns and started using them more often. I'm not going to call this a pushback effect or Streisand effect. I'm calling it the blowback effect. If you made it to where, legally speaking, you couldn't charge them with a weapons charge, but strong armed robbery, and gave them less of a sentence, they wouldn't have loaded the fucking gun and shot somebody. You stupid fucking bastards. We're tough on crime, and you escalated it to murder. The armed robbery rate went way up because they declared armed robbery to include toy guns. I agree that you're intimidating them, but this should be a statistical requirement that it say, was the gun loaded? If it's unloaded, you give them less of a sentence because at least they're not literally a danger to everybody. They're putting their ass on the line more because the person they're attacking might have a real loaded gun. This literally caused more death by making it to where, if you use a water pistol, it's the same period of time. Well, then they won't carry a water pistol. Obviously, if you show intent not to kill people, maybe you shouldn't go to prison so long. What's under blunt instruments? Deaths due to accidental or negligent discharge of a firearm somehow is not under accidental death by injury. But anyway, it's about the same as blunt instrument. And again, blunt instruments are more often if you take the handgun out and have it be shotguns and rifle shootings that are murders, not accidents. Death due to firearm use, undetermined intent, was 1/10 of that. What was more likely to kill you than a homicide by handgun? Suicide. What's almost as often, in fact, I would say more often if you take out the shotguns and rifles, because it literally drops down to this point. Death by drunk driver. If you're caught driving drunk, you're not allowed to drive for the rest of your life. Or you literally pick to never drink again because you obviously can't handle liquor. You can't drink responsibly. You're not allowed to drive irresponsibly. If you're in an accident and nobody gets hurt, that's great. You're still not allowed to drink anymore. Or you're not allowed to drive. You get to pick. What's more important? Being able to drive a fucking car or get blasted drunk. You're put on a blacklist or a no-drink list. You're on the dry list for life. That's a horrible punishment. You're never allowed to drive again, and we don't talk to you again. You're never allowed to have a license for the rest of your life. We don't give a fuck if your life goes to shit. You picked alcohol over driving. Pick. Drink or drive. Pick. It's a simple motto. It's like buckle up or don't drive. Yeah, at one time in the state of Oregon, we would take people's driver's license away from them for a little while. You will buckle up. Why? Because we're tired of digging your brains out of someone's front yard. This is an example of a practical... Well, I don't like the government deciding that. It's not the fucking federal government, asshole. It's local people tired of cleaning up your mess. And trust me, I've cleaned up enough brains. No more. Are you a drunk driver? You don't get to drive. Or you don't get to drink. You are now absolutely 100% a teetotaler. The reason I don't drink, the reason I will never drink, is I've had to clean up too many fucking brains off of telephone poles. Fuck that shit. Well, we want gun violence to end. Which one? The ones that you escalated by making criminals realize there was no point in carrying an unloaded gun or a cap gun and trying to fool someone? It's called intimidation robbery or strong arm robbery. No, we're going to escalate it to literal mass murder so that they have no reason not to shoot people. The law of unintended consequences. If you make a 15-lane highway, you're going to get 15 times as many cars on it, so it's just going to be a bigger traffic jam. If what you're doing doesn't work, stop fucking doing it. You're willing to outlaw cigarettes and vaping, which actually is a little bit less damaging. Less harm. You guys are, some of you people out there would rather have your relatives die in the past from acquired immune deficiency syndrome than hand out condoms and acknowledge that people actually fuck once in a while. People out there would rather, literally, I'm not kidding about this is a Twitter thing, outlaw being a heterosexual white male over 40. That's me. We're ending you. You're canceled. Cancel culture. No more grown men. Okay, you get dumb little boys. They weren't talking about Congress. They were talking about hunting down old men. And there's another group of people that claims every once in a while on Facebook that they're going to hunt homeless people. So every once in a while I see somebody fidgeting about something and he has it in his hand. I'm like, is it a gun? Yeah. Does it work perfectly and reliably? No. Then you don't want it. And I tell them how to very carefully put a drill bit into it, put a screw in it, get it in there to where it's blocked up on all the cylinders if it's a revolver, and definitely the barrel, and then leave it somewhere. Just leave it. It's not yours. Wipe your fingerprints off of it. Leave the numbers on it. Deactivate it. Because it's like a bad mouse. If it's broken, fucking destroy it. An unreliable gun will get you killed faster than anything else. We teach our cops not to shoot people in the leg or tackle anybody. Don't take any chances. Kill them. So we get some dead kids because they had a toy gun. One guy got shot because he was holding a water pistol grip for a sprayer for spraying a lawn. One kid was shot because they accused him of having a gun in his hand, and then they lied about him going for his pants when he did not. Exonerated. Sanity defense. We demand that laws pass the sanity test. It's a sanity check we do in computers. Does this make things worse? If yes, stop. If it makes things better, keep doing it. Would an assault weapons ban have any effect on this? It would have a 10% reduction because it only covers rifle-sized objects. It never covered the pistols. It would have a 10% effect on that large number you're thinking. So if it's 11,000 deaths per year, it's now to 10,000. Is that good enough? And again, the majority at that point, literally at that point, 3-to-1 would be suicides. Well, no, 2-to-1, excuse me. The numbers changed. It's only twice as likely you'll shoot yourself with your own gun rather than somebody breaking into your house. If you outlawed pistols, which I don't think would be useful, but hey, it's easier to build a shotgun or a rifle. Yeah, if you outlawed pistols, then it would reduce the gun violence rate, right? So people, maybe they would just switch to car attacks like we've seen terrorists do. Someone writes, secretly on another channel, I'm going to post this another one. Not all my rifles are registered or known about. Shh. Yeah. Oh, and dieseling an old rifle is not legal in the UK. Of course not, because it's fun and honestly not very effective, unless you know how to make very specific pellets. Same with using upgraded larger springs and brake barrel springers, or an air gun made out of PVC I have a video link to on the previous video I put up. Not accurate. They're fun. Pellet to penetrate better than most long rifles. 22s. You hit one in the head, about the constant threat of 5 to 10 years in jail just for something so stupid. Most of my air rifles are under the 13 pounds per square inch foot-pound requirement because of old legal threshold. And a bunch of other commentary, which I'm not going to post here. Britain outlawed pellet guns, toy guns, or drawing them. California does the same thing. Their violence rate increased, but the murder rate with guns went down, I guess. What about California? Did it work? Are you still doing something that didn't work? Virginia, or whatever it is going to have some rules put in, including my videos telling people how to safely test cartridges so they can check PSI ratings. Or, hey, don't do that video you saw on YouTube that's irresponsible, that never gets flagged. Do my method, which will get flagged, that tells you how to build safely your own shotgun or rifle that won't hurt you or anybody else unless you actually fire it. Including making it California compliant. Oh, we got to ban that. Knowledge is dangerous. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.